RFK Jr. hot and heavy on, mRNA vaccines, slashing funding for mRNA vaccines in the upcoming year to the tune of, $500 billion?
Yeah.
$500 billion in vaccine cuts. Aaron, you got the story. Take us away.
USA Today is reporting RFK Jr. is canceling mRNA vaccine development. Can I still get a COVID vaccine? Health and Human Services Secretary the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. revealed his agency will be cutting funding to mRNA development, calling the vaccine technology ineffective and claiming it poses more risks than benefits.
The Surgeon General from Florida, and he's asked about the COVID shots.
A tangible benefit for jabbing these young kids with mRNA shots?
There's not been not one single randomized clinical trial that has demonstrated any benefit for young people with this jab.
Kennedy said the decision will impact 22 projects worth nearly $500 million at the Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority, which helps companies develop medical supplies to address public health threats. So mRNA technology is like submitting computer code into your body, telling the cells what to produce and why to produce it. And it's been very, very controversial. I think that the consensus on what you would call maybe the alternative, right, is that mRNA technology has no business in our bodies. A lot of people have pointed to the fact that we've been lied to. These spike proteins that are being instructed to be replicated, we were told they're to stop at a certain point, and what we're finding out is these spike proteins continually replicate themselves and almost turning your body into a subscription plan for the pharmaceutical companies. So
I think that in that sense, the mRNA vaccines for COVID are already in the minds of the public, in the marketplace, effectively dead. The money that Pfizer is getting from them, the money that Moderna is getting from them, has collapsed from the astronomical levels they got in 2021. To me, the next step is the mRNA platform itself. So I've been looking very carefully at the data that have started to come out on so the theory, like I'm just telling you what the theory is versus the reality. The theory is that I give you this mRNA code. Your body, your cells produce the antigen that I, the scientist, wanted to produce. Your immune system reacts to it, and then trains it to react to that antigen, which is similar to the COVID virus antigen, right? And that's the theory of the protection. The reality is that the dose of the antigen that's produced, that you're induced by one mRNA strand, it could be 1, 2, 3, 5. There's no control over it. The dose of the antigen, the dose of the mRNA, you may have some control over, but the dose of the antigen, almost none, because you don't have control over how many copies are made of the antigen per string. The biodistribution of it also is not controllable, right? So you see evidence of harms in lots of different body systems because but one reason might be because the biodistribution of where these antigens are made is not controllable. And the third thing is that the fidelity of the proteins made by the code for the mRNA technology is not perfect. You often get antigens and proteins that are not in the code itself because they're skipping frame shifts and other things. And so from a regulatory perspective, how as a regulator do you say, okay, you can give this product to people even though you don't know the dose that you're giving to people, even though you don't know where it's going in the body, and even though you don't know that you're producing the target antigen that you want to produce, right? And so as a future platform, okay, there was a Nobel Prize awarded for the mRNA technology to begin with that allowed it so that it would actually produce the antigens without your body sort of overreacting and with this immune overreaction and destroying it or just getting rid of it. There's going to need to be 2 or 3 more Nobel Prize winning advances before this is ready for prime time, I think. So that's the next step is making sure that regulators understand that when they improve products with this mRNA platform, they are approving platforms where the manufacturer has no idea what the dose they're giving, no idea where it goes in the body, and whether the antigen itself that they're supposedly producing is actually produced and not just off target, and not off target antigens as well.
This obviously squarely impacts the COVID-19 vaccine because all the major COVID-19 vaccines do utilize mRNA technology. So I think the subtext in this news is what's going to happen to the COVID-19 vaccine.
Yeah, this is very different than traditional vaccines, which traditional vaccines have their own risk and harm, which we'll get to in a sec. But you said it, where it's constantly replicating these spike proteins, whereas a traditional vaccine or natural immunity. Let's go with natural immunity, right? You contract a virus of some sort. Let's call it the chicken pox. Okay? Your body basically memorizes the cells that it needs to produce to fight the chicken pox. And so if you ever encountered the chicken pox again, your body would rapidly produce from memory the cells that it needs to fight the chicken pox virus, and you won't get sick again because you have that immunity. It's immunity that you've gained naturally that is memorized in your body. With vaccines, traditional vaccines, they use a weakened virus, put it in the body. The body goes through the same process of learning how to attack that specific virus. And now if you come into contact with that virus again, your body has the memory to be able to attack it. The difference between mRNA vaccines and traditional vaccines is what you just said, though. Instead of attacking the virus when it's presented to the body, mRNA vaccines are essentially always ready to attack the virus, even if the virus is not present. Well, what does that do to the body? That's the question that nobody can answer. Now, we have a bigger hurdle and obstacle to overcome because we already know that those with large amounts of power and large amounts of money that are trying to impact the global economy and the global population are talking about using mRNA vaccines and mRNA technology in our food supply and in our food sources. This is not a myth. It's not some conspiracy theory. It's been readily publicized. You can do a quick search on the internet and come up with news articles from reputable news sources that talk about using mRNA technology in our beef in this country, in our cows, in our chickens. This is readily available information. They are doing it. And so just because we get away from mRNA technology through a COVID vaccine does not mean that we are going to be safe from this mRNA technology and what they're trying to do to the body, playing God over and over and over again in our everyday lives.
Yeah, I think Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was viewed as the Superman archetype, the hero in the cape. He was coming in through the back door of the Trump administration to save the day. I think we, as a wearied American public, have looked at the CDC, the FDA, the vaccine industrial complex, and have seen everything that they've ever introduced as a threat to our health. And one of the fun facts that were not advertised when this mRNA vaccine got rolled out and when everybody was hyperventilating about, we need to get the COVID vaccine, we need to get the COVID vaccine. One thing that was not disclosed was that these spike proteins travel throughout the vascular system and can join together using light technology. So the reason this is a problem for us is that these are nanoparticles that are creating rubbery clots throughout our vascular system, catapulting cancer, heart disease, infertility, and dementia. So mRNA technology is very untested. There are significant concerns about what it can do to our health. And cue applause for RFK Jr. Yes, he's delivering on his promises. I think that we're getting our money's worth for good old Bobby. I'm still solidly a Bobby fan, Jason. He hasn't disappointed me yet.
As you should be. And I think that RFK has done a whole lot to bust open the pharmaceutical industry and even the vaccine industry, because there's common trends amongst all the vaccines, and a lot of it has to do with the preservatives that they put in the vaccines, the other materials that they put in the vaccines for shelf life or for whatever other reason. This is a huge problem, and one of the common potential harms of every vaccine is brain swelling.
Yeah.
Well, you have brain swelling in a kid, and you end up with some sort of traumatic brain injury, which we call autism in this country. I don't actually believe that autism really exists. I believe that it's traumatic brain injuries that we're seeing, and that's why we see different cases of autism present in such drastically different fashions. If autism was all the same and they all had the exact same symptoms, or at least somewhat of the same symptoms, would be one story. But why do you have autistic kids across the spectrum They even gave it a name because they couldn't describe it. Well, I spent years and years and years working with soldiers and veterans with traumatic brain injuries. And some of them, if you didn't know any better and you didn't know that at one point before their injury they were normal functioning, you would have looked at them and said, this guy has autism. He doesn't. He has a traumatic brain injury.
So am I hearing you correctly, Jason? Because I feel like this is a hashtag mic drop moment. Like what you're saying is that perhaps, clarify if this is what you're suggesting, because this is how my brain's working, that we were purposely misled in a semantics game. That this idea of us debating the idea of autism was going to be a losing endeavor, was going to be pointless endeavor, because there is no such thing as autism, that we were always going to lose this argument, because what it actually is brain injury. Like, are you getting the angle that I'm suggesting here, that this was like intentionally deceptive for argument's sake?
Yes, and it's not the first time that it's been done. I think that they purposefully did it in that fashion? I don't know.
Maybe, right?
That's a really big allegation to throw out there.
Well, 80% of the war is informational.
All I'm saying is that when you have very little genetic backing to back the existence of autism in the fashion that they claim that it exists, but you see very similar situations and traumatic brain injury, and you already know that the potential of vaccines causing brain swelling and other traumatic brain injuries is possible, did we just create a diagnosis that spans a spectrum because we didn't want to call it a traumatic brain injury, because that would paint, well, number one, it would possibly point the finger at the vaccine industry to say you caused this, but number two, that it sheds this extremely bad light, and that potentially you have no Americans getting these vaccines.
That'd be bad for profits.
Which it would be bad for profits, but at the same point, like some of these things, polio, I don't think we want a polio resurgence in this country. Did a polio vaccine make sense when they came out with it? Yeah, it saved hundreds of thousands of lives. The problem is that our vaccine schedule, number one, we vaccinate kids for things that will probably not kill them or have a very small chance of killing them, and the risks of giving them that vaccine, in my personal opinion, outweigh the risk of contracting the virus. I mean, how many kids die of measles every year? Do we really need to be vaccinating for that with the information that we presently have?
Yeah,
it's a valid question to ask.
That's the big one right now. Measles is like on like you watch Hulu or something. They're like, vaccine for measles. Take that, measles. You're all, why nobody's dying from measles as far as I know. It just seems a little excessive. Well, not a little, quite excessive. Some of them, I think you're right on that. Most of the vaccine stuff just gets excessive. How many people die from measles? Does it say on there?
I can look it up.
Yeah, it's probably not that many, huh? Is it probably 1%, less than 1%, I would guess? But they do have that. You'll be watching something and...
Well, since we're on the topic of vaccines and brain damage and RFK Jr., this was actually released by ABC News on July 3rd. RFK Jr. CDC panel have been casting doubt on the hepatitis B vaccine. Here's why it's safe. Health and Human Services Secretary Kennedy and members of his newly appointed vaccine panel are casting doubt on the hepatitis B vaccine and the established practice of vaccinating newborns. They're basically saying that every newborn leaving the hospital should not, I repeat, should not be getting the hepatitis B vaccine because of alleged connection to a study that found the hepatitis B vaccine increases the risk of autism, and that researchers hid the results of the study from the public. He made this claim on Tucker Carlson's interview, I think in late June, early July. Hepatitis B, we refuse that in all of our children. The hepatitis B disease is common among sex workers and intravenous drug users. Babies that have been alive for 5 minutes, I guarantee you, are not involved in sex work or intravenous drug use. At least my kids were not. They do not need a hepatitis B vaccine, yet they hand it out as it's an opt-out policy at the hospital. You have to request that your child not receive the hepatitis B vaccine after you go through the social shaming rituals of, well, everybody does it. What's wrong with you? What is wrong with you, Mr. Lujan? You're endangering your kids. But yeah, I think that the hepatitis B vaccine is yet another example of just another what's the word I'm looking for? Trojan horse. I think what's happening is we're getting our kids and ourselves all vaxxed up on all of this preventative stuff that ends up actually creating more of the problem. It's the source of these problems.
Well, and the problem with the pharmaceutical industry, and for so long, we saw this with Purdue Pharma and OxyContin, was basically they controlled the entire industry and they controlled the medical field. And instead of having the pharmaceutical company stay in their lane and the doctors stay in their lane, the pharmaceutical industry was allowed to provide medical advice to doctors and prescribing to patients. And not only that, but looked at doctors and purposefully convinced them that they needed to prescribe higher doses to their patients. They needed to not wean them off of pain medication because it was perfectly safe when they knew it wasn't. Claiming that it wasn't addictive when it was clear as day that it was way addictive. Claiming that it lasts 12 hours when really it didn't. And the amount of tolerance built up in the population that took OxyContin was sky high. And so what were they looking for? The next fix. And a larger fix. And a larger fix. They created an opioid epidemic in this country, which then allowed the black market to come in when the pharmaceutical industry was eventually shut off from prescribing OxyContin in the fashion that they were prescribing it, with drug reps that were making millions of dollars, and with doctors that were given bonuses and were given trips and prizes for prescribing the most OxyContin. This is an industry that is just completely for profit and not for the health of the American public. And doctors taking a Hippocratic oath to do no harm and then not doing their own research and relying on an industry that's obviously flawed and for profit to give them advice on how they should treat their patients is absurd. And we saw the same thing happen with the COVID vaccine because doctors were given bonuses. They were given additional funds by insurance agencies and things like that to make sure that their population of patients was vaccinated. And they were given bonuses if they had 85% vaccination rate, if they had 75% vaccination rate. They became the sellers, they became the agents of the pharmaceutical industry when that's not their job. Their job is to be a doctor.
Yeah, I mean, we're literally having a conversation about the last days, the last minutes of a dying institution. This health medical complex system is dying. It's what Jason and I, anytime RFK is in the news, all we're doing is we're providing commentary on the last days of a once great dying institution. Kelly and Casey Means blew the door down when they went on Tucker Carlson. I want to say late in 2024, they released the book Good Energy. They basically addressed the American public. The adult finally entered the chat and said, guess what, American people? The entire medical industrial complex is written by the insurance companies in the pharmaceutical industry. It's a sick care system. It goes all the way back to the medical school system and how doctors in this country are trained to look at the human body in parts. They do not look at the human body as a holistic and whole and unified system. Scripture talks about, there's many parts to the body, but they all serve one function. And that's because the body designed by God is one singular system that is made up of many parts to solve and do one thing. And so the reason that we have the problems that we have is because our doctors in this country have been trained to treat the system, not the root cause of the problem.
Well, and this has always been about money. I mean, the cost to put a pharmaceutical on the market from start to finish is somewhere around $2.83 billion. With most of that, with a lot of that going to the FDA. And sometimes up to 15 years to get a product to market. And so when you look and you go, okay, the FDA is there or research is there to provide life-altering cures, life-changing cures, to cure cancer, to cure whatever. Is it really? Because it costs billions of dollars to take a product to market in research and development. And half of that cost that I just said was not their research and development aspect of it. It was just the process of going through the FDA compliance. This is absolutely absurd what it takes to put a new drug on the market. Yet the COVID vaccine could do it in a record-breaking 5 months.
Well, here's also why I'm hopeful, Jason, is the American people are smarter now. The American people have been asking a lot of questions.
I think they're more skeptical. I don't necessarily think smart is the right thing. I think questioning and being more skeptical and
Yes,
a little more like,
I'll give you
Are
that.
you trying to help me or are you trying to send me to hell? Which one are you doing here?
We've wised up.
Yeah, we're just being like,
Yeah,
beneficial or no?
right. Just because you're wearing a white lab coat and you have a medical degree on the wall doesn't mean I'm gonna blindly trust you anymore. Like the way I may have trusted you in 1995, the American people's no longer trusting the witch
Oh
doctors
yeah,
anymore.
if I go to when I go to like the VA for a thing or something, hey, get the COVID vaccine. You need to get the COVID. I'm like, dude, I'm good. I'm just here for a damn checkup. All right, just make sure the the growths in the lungs are okay-ish, and I'm breathing all right and oxygenating enough. Give me my inhalers and let me move on.
Yeah,
So the FDA's budget, 45% of the revenue comes from the companies it's called to regulate.
that's nice.
So they're basically screening and regulating themselves through funding.
So if you think about it, right?
That makes sense. So
Yeah, so they are the organization that is supposed to tell these pharmaceutical companies, yes, no, you can bring a product to market. And majority of their funding comes from the same companies that it regulates.
they're supposed to scrutinize the people that are funding them. And then, okay, so that's like auditing yourself. It's just ridiculous.
It is.
It's stupid. So it's just a big corrupt circle loop of crap and more just, oh, I got the funding, so I'm doing the right thing, and you better push this through so you get some more funding there, FDA. Yeah, no, I'm good. And that kind of explains some stuff because like I've gotten like surgeries and stuff for patch up jobs, and every time you go for the thing, I'm like, oh, I just need like whatever. It'll be like Vicodin so I can heal up, but I'm like, just 4 or 5, and they're like, oh, well, here's like 50. I was like, I just need 4 or 5 to sleep at night, man. You know, I don't need that much. Just give me enough, and I'll let you know if it's still unbearable, and I'll get them. Just relax. But they always try to give way too many pills. I think, anyways, every time I've had anything done or patched up, I'm like, why do I need so much? It's insane. Just give me like 10, 5. I don't need that much. I need enough to sleep and heal up a little bit.
Because they're drug dealers, that's why.
I guess. That just seems crazy, though. And they look at you all weird when you ask for less, like there's something wrong with you. And then it's weird, too, because like when I was getting surgeries or when I got like my shoulder and collarbone surgeon, they had to refill prescriptions. I think it was after like the 3rd refill or something. They started having like urine analysis. I had to have pee test and stuff for my thing. I'm like, what am I doing? Oh, we're making sure. I was like, making sure of what? You're the one prescribing me.
Good.
I don't know what's happening here. So it's just, but it just seems weird that for a prescription, they're having me do urine test, but then they have like those methadone clinics and stuff. So you're like, what is this, man? I legitimately had a shoulder and collarbone surgery. Like, you're like putting me back together.
Humpty
I
Dumpty.
just want to sleep and rest. It's uncomfortable in my life.
So there's a giant article released by the Independent Medical Alliance on shedding of COVID mRNA vaccines. And what we're talking about when we come back to the spike proteins is that these vaccines cause shedding. And so essentially through urine, through feces, through your breath, through reproductive fluids, all of this, women's breast milk, that parts of this mRNA vaccine creates particles that are shedded through the body, which means even if you do not get the mRNA vaccine, you are still affected by those around you that have the vaccine. And there's a wealth of research that has been covered up that shows that shedding is a real thing. On top of that, now you have the problem that you have a huge percentage of the population that has gotten some form of mRNA vaccine. And now what's happening with our blood supply, right? What's happening with emergency blood supply? If you have to go in and get a surgery and there's a potential that you need blood, that donor's blood more than likely has, by percentage, there's a better than likely not chance that they have mRNA vaccines inside of them when they donate that blood. And so now we're talking about the food source being contaminated with mRNA vaccines on purpose. I don't know if you can call it contamination.
Are you saying
Because
it's
it's
intentional?
purposeful. And so is there actually a possibility that the American public can get away from the harmful effects of the mRNA vaccine? That's a question that needs to be asked and is yet to be answered.
Yeah, well, I think the issue with the spike proteins as well is that our bodies were never designed to force manufacture them in high prolonged amounts. What a lot of people are looking at with these spike proteins is that it's causing persistent inflammation, that's clotting issues, that's extreme fatigue, it's creating autoimmune reactivity problems where these antibodies are attacking their own tissues. And they're also observing cell damage and vascular leakage, especially in the capillaries. So anytime I look at God's beautiful design and I see, some research institute saying, well, we got a new way to do it better than God, I'm always like, I'm not sure if I believe that, man. I think God has a pretty good understanding of what he created. I'm not sure if you are going to come up with something maybe that God had forgotten or left on the table. Like, I think that I think there's a fine line between cooperating with him and replacing him. Like, we had Dr. Peter on the other day. He's a chiropractor, and he came on to suggest that chiropractic care is one of the greatest forms of preventative care, that it should never get to a point where we're doing surgeries and we're doing drugs. We could avoid surgeries and drugs if we just got our spine in alignment, because our body is one system, and our spine, our neurological system.
Oh, you mean with not without like major injuries, car accidents, or
Yeah.
smashed up, like
Yeah,
just a day-to-day living, like
like I brush my teeth every
crackled
morning.
and popped, and
I'm gonna
okay.
I'm gonna pop, lock, and drop it, 2 to 3 times a week
Gotcha.
at the chiropractor, because I want to have regularity in my system.
Yeah, the snap, crackle, pop, the Rice Krispie guys.
The Rice Krispie treat.
And you're like, all right.
Now, what were those guys' names?
Snap, crackle, and pop.
That's
That was
right,
The
thank
Rice
you.
Krispie.
That
guys.
was their names. My
All the
bad.
Rice Krispie elves. I'm sure they were fighting with the Keebler elves half the time.
Did you ever quiet your soul and get near the snap, crackle, pop in the morning to listen to them talk to
They
you?
made me quiet my soul. It just sounded creepy, but
They would talk to me at 6:30 in the morning before the carpool would come.
good. So no more Rice Krispies for you. We're keeping those away from you. We agree on that. No, we're going to restrict him from Rice Krispies now.
But the point I'm making about chiropractic care and the spike proteins is that in the case of chiropractic care, we're cooperating with God. God gave us this amazing body. We're allowing the body to do what it was designed to do, so it avoids the worst case scenario situations like getting under the knife and going under some, major, arguably super addictive opiates and narcotics. And that's, I think, the same thing with these spike protein vaccines. Rather than manufacturing and weaponizing, bioweapons at enemies' labs in China, maybe we should have a better national security policy than that. Maybe we shouldn't be, investing millions of dollars in a research and development on how we can kill people, and then maybe our government could just promote healthy lifestyles. But that makes me an extremist. So I'm sorry, guys, for being a right-wing extremist here, but I think preventative healthcare sounds a lot better than being a lobotomized, science experiment for Dr. Fauci. Jason?
I would agree. We're going to take a brief time out. When we come back, we're going to, freshen up with a new conversation.
Fresh it up.
Hang with us.
Fresh and fit.
Welcome back to Spiritual Insurgency. I'm Jason Liebelt, my co-host Aaron Lujan,
Howdy.
and just a guy, Jim Miller.
Hello, hello.
And, well, we're switching gears a little bit. And by the way, if you want to find any of that research that I just talked about with the shedding, you can go online to faithfamilyfit.org and find that link, or click below on your YouTube or Rumble version of this podcast/radio show. Aaron, take us away.
Well, it just seems to me like the soup du jour this week is violence against white people. Just quick reminder, America is 81 to about 87%. I like to use the word Anglo-American. I know that term's kind of out of vogue right now, but it just,
Out of vogue.
we're not actually like,
I love Vogue.
I mean, yeah, we're not actually black. They're like really like dark brown. Anyways, I digress. 270 million white people out of about 308 million citizens. You would think that we would be a country that would all agree, hey, maybe we should be respectful of the majority. But there almost seems to be like this unspoken rule that you don't talk about that. You don't bring up the fact that a young white woman was at a jazz festival in Ohio and got dropped to the ground unconscious. Like, you're not supposed to discuss that maybe it was race related because the people attacking her were bringing up the fact that she was white. So I just wanted to ask the question, and my two brothers here are Anglo, praise God for that. Why is it that it's like fashionable to violently beat up white people and it's bad to like talk about it and draw attention to it?
Well, the only way that we stop racism in this country, in my opinion, is we stop talking about it.
Okay.
Which is
talk about it.
which is opposite of what the educational institutions want you to do, which is hammer it home, right?
Right.
That there's this sort of white supremacy that still exists in this country, that there's all of these, that the Caucasian male Protestant evangelical still has this huge edge in society in the United States, which is just not true. It's not true anymore. And so, but the problem is we keep perpetrating this idea that there's this chronic amount of hatred in this country, that there's this chronic amount of racism in this country, that there's this chronic amount of sexism in this country, and it keeps just being highlighted in our everyday news. And what that does is that continues to put this divide in our nation. Instead of just saying we are one people, one race, we are all from the same creator. And the more and more that we depart from that, the more and more we're going to see these issues. And that's what they want. That's what the news media wants. They want something to talk about. And, well, racism catches a lot of eyes. It's a hot topic. It's a hot commodity. Everybody wants to talk about it. Everybody wants to watch the videos on it. And so until we stop talking about it, I think we're going to continue to have this problem.
Good old racist ratings. But you see, too, a lot of people like that old victim mentality crap. It's like a trophy or something. And then every time, I don't necessarily agree with you on don't talk about it. I am with stuff. I'm usually like on the thing of like, no, you're an American Mexican, an American African, American Asian. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
First, instead of the way they always kind of put it, or they just get with like, oh, super racist here or whatever. I look and a lot of the stuff too with the just the racist stuff is just, it's stupid. If that's your whole basis of hating somebody's the color of their skin, you have bigger issues and problems, and you're probably a low value human with no morals, values, ethics, or anything worth value, even as a human being. So you have a 1 in 400 trillion chance to exist. You should probably do something better with it than just hate on people for the color of their skin, because that's just idiotic in my opinion. So I don't agree with you on not talking about it. I think it's more of like shaming the aspect of being like racist regardless of race, kind of thing. So I don't know how to really go about it, but I don't think it's valuable. What do you think?
Well, I think we have to talk about it because we have to ask, why is this happening? Like, why is it okay to be racist against
Why
white people
is
in
it
America.
trendy? Because everybody says you can't be racist to white people. I'm like, what? Right there in the thing you just said is racist. Oh, it's a white people. It sounds it's ridiculous.
But why is this always being perpetrated? Why does the NFL, decorate the end zone, stop racism? Why does the corporate media spend millions of dollars paying their corporate spokespeople to constantly stoke the fire of race relations and racism, and there's a racist at every corner, while simultaneously ignoring actual racism, which is
letting real racists
real
through the
racism,
cracks, like real bad problems.
like black youth attacking young white people because their skin color is white and calling them racial expletives for being white. That is race related violence.
You know why? I bet it's so we can stay divided, so they can just sit there and milk us dry, tax money and all these extra laws and rules and crap, and subjugate and oppress all of us as a whole and keep us fighting so we're distracted. That's what I think. I think it's just to keep us all distracted and fighting amongst the population, so the rest of the setup and establishment in the system could just sit there and just subjugate and oppress us and keep us poor and stupid and using social medias and AIs as we're on it. But keep us just to where we're not thinking for ourselves or anything. And go, here's why. Here's why you're hungry. Here's why you're tired. Here's why you're cold. Here's why everything's bad for you, because there's other races making it happen. And really, everybody's just doing the same thing, regardless of race, creed, religion, ethnic groups, sexual orientations, all this stuff. We're just going about the day trying to take care of our family, trying to make a couple bucks, trying to eat, trying to stay kind of warm, trying to be a little bit comfortable, trying to stay in an okay mood so you don't become a big old jerko. And we're all doing the same exact thing, but I think they just push it and try to, here's the buck, pass the buck, drop a dime and say it's this, and say it's race or white people's doing it. And so there's the thing. That's why everything's tough for other people, period.
No, I agree with you. I think division is definitely one of the reasons why. I don't think it's the only reason. If they keep us divided, we're easily more conquerable. But I also think there's a much more tangible reason why they do this. And it goes back to something Charlie Kirk would never be willing to talk about. Nick Fuentes is very comfortable talking about, which is defining the split in the alternative right media space, which is the great replacement theory. If you look at the writings of the Marxists, you look at the communists, you look at the political ideology of our conquerors, of our enemies, those that are in power, there's this idea that you want to replace the majority ethnicity of a nation in order to overthrow the nation. This is a Anglo-Christian nation, the United States of America. I realize that's a very unpopular thing to say. It's just, in my opinion, my understanding, it's historical fact. You look at the people who started this country. These were English-speaking Puritans from Western Europe. This is their country, and it's being overthrown. And it's being overthrown by importing people that don't accept the values of this country, don't look anything like the founders of this country, so that they can quote Barack Hussein Obama, fundamentally change America. This is what's at play. And I'm going to have to go. Peace.
The manifest destiny that they get all upset about, they're doing too. I don't know. It just seems, fighting about race just seems stupid to me as a whole. Just seems like a big waste of freaking time, energy, and effort. And I think it just keeps us divided and keeps us fighting, so nothing gets really solved. And just makes excuses, so there's more problems, and they just have like a kind of be-all, catch-all answer. It's because this other race group of people.
So here's one for you, Jim. By the way, Aaron had to leave early, so he's not finishing out the show with us. But OpenAI GPT-5 is here. Company unveils PhD-level experts in your pocket. Latest model described as smartest and fastest to date with human-like conversation style. OpenAI unveiled GPT-5 on Thursday, calling it a significant upgrade from its predecessors and a major step forward in building the capabilities of large language models. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman described the model as like having a team of PhD-level experts in your pocket. Altman also believes that GPT-5 marks a major step to achieving artificial general intelligence. AGI refers to the hypothetical intelligence of a machine that has the ability to understand or learn any intellectual task that a human can, according to Google. It essentially aims to mimic the cognitive abilities of the human brain. Nick Turley, who leads the ChatGPT team, described the new model as the smartest and fastest to date, with a more natural and human-like conversation style. For developers, it also represents the GPT-5 is the best coding model for developers, according to ChatGPT post-training lead Michelle Pokris.
Look, I know old Aaron had to go, but he loves all that AI stuff. I don't. I hate that stuff. I think it's like the best way I can put it is like I remember like before the maps, and all the Google Maps and the GPS stuff. You had to like look up on a map and like plot your destination and your routes and how far you're going and watch how far and watch exit signs. You had to think about the journey, right? And you had to know the journey. You had to kind of plan it and lay it out. Now you just type an address in a GPS and just kind of blindly drive without thinking about the route at all, don't you? So it kind of shut down. I think this is a bigger version of that, but it kind of shuts you down to like your just cognitive thought process, your problem solving, your thinking about what's going on, your memorization. I think it's a tool to make you dumber. You heard it. It's a PhD in your pocket. Why do I need that? I'm going to go fix a car or work on the house. I don't need that. I need to just have basic knowledge and how to like repair and fix things, You don't need all that. I think it's something to dumb you down and to shut down your natural thought process, your problem solving, your way of just going, okay, well, what else is next? What do I got to do next? Or remembering anything? Because why remember it? We naturally kind of info dump, right, in your brain to make space. So why memorize a thing you got to do when you can just be like, oh, what is it, GPT?
ChatGPT.
ChatGPT 5. The Ocho's coming up 3 more later, but it's going to be here. It just seems to make everybody dumber. Like you don't have to think or have any cognitive thought process or problem solving skills anymore because this stupid thing right here will do it for you. So I don't use it. I don't like it. I think it's going to be a bigger problem in the longer picture, especially with the next generation. I'm like, what is everyone going to do? Just plug stuff into their brain and put a screen over their eyes? I can walk around with a walker and probably conquer the world.
Well, let's roll this clip just really fast. This is Sam Altman on AGI, GPT-5, and what's next. Here we go.
I've always joked that one thing we should do when we have enough money, when OpenAI has enough money, is just build a gigantic particle accelerator and solve high energy physics once and for all. Because I think that'd be like a triumphant, wonderful thing. But I wonder, what are the odds that a really, really smart AI could look at the data we currently have with no more data, no bigger particle accelerator, and just figure it out? It's not impossible.
Yeah.
And yeah, so there's this question of like, okay, there's already a lot of data out there. There's a lot of smart people in the world, but we don't know how far intelligence can go. With no more experiments, how much more could we figure out?
I remember reading some that talked about how in early 1990s, somebody had found like a form of Ozempic, all right, and presented it to like a drug company and said this, and they said, we're going to pass on that. And that's been a life-changing drug for people, like for people who've just basically gone chronic obesity, whatever, It's going to improve the quality of life. And you think, oh, this was sitting there for 25 years.
I suspect there's a lot of other examples that we'll find where maybe we already have existing drugs that we know do something good, but they're reusable in some other big way, or with a couple of small modifications, we're very close to something great. And it's been very heartening to hear from scientists using even the current generation models for this kind of work.
So it sounds like one of the things we're going to need, though, for next generation models is models that understand physics and chemistry and stuff. Is Sora sort of a stab at that?
I mean, it'll understand like Newtonian physics. I don't know if it'll help us with discovering new chemistry and sort of like new, like novel physics, or novel theoretical physics, or whatever you'd like. But I think I'm optimistic that the techniques we use for the reasoning models will help us with those things a lot.
Okay. And what is the short definition of how a reasoning model works versus just me asking GPT 4.1 something?
So the GPT models can reason a little bit. And in fact, one of the things that got people really excited in the early days of the GPT models was you could get better performance by telling the model, let's think step by step. And it would then just output text that was thinking step by step and get a better answer, which was sort of amazing that worked at all. The reasoning models are just pushing that much further.
So it's the idea of like when it's able to break the question down, it can spend more time on each step.
When you ask me something, a question, if it's a really easy question, I might just fire back like almost on reflex with the answer. But if it's a harder question, I might think in my head and have like my internal monologue go and say, well, I could do this or that, or maybe, this will be clearer. I'm not sure about that. And I could like backtrack and retrace my steps. And then when I finish thinking and I've, been thinking in English, I can then, make some bullet points and then kind of like output an answer to you in English.
One of the interesting things I've observed now when I use the app, if I ask a deep research question or something, and I go away on my lock screen, I get it's still processing and thinking about it. And I heard another company, I forget who it was using a metric of how long something spent. I think it was Anthropic, like said, hey, this model actually spent like 15 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever length of time to think about a thing, which is a good metric but it needs to actually give you the right answer. And I thought that was sort of just interesting paradigm of.
One thing I have been surprised by is people are surprisingly willing to wait for a great answer.
Yeah.
Even if the model's going to think a while. All of my instincts have been, the instant response is the thing that matters and users hate to wait. And for a lot of stuff, that's true. But for hard problems with a really good answer, people are quite willing to wait.
So there's Sam Altman talking about where the future of AI might be going and saying that, AI could be more intelligent and produce more answers in the science world than human beings could with more experiments and with years and years and years of further exploration.
He's the more Weasley sounding one, right?
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I think it's pointless. I think it's going to start shutting down a lot of things for people, like congregating together, mingling together, exchanging ideas. I mean, the more connected we've become, the more disconnected we've become as a community, society, families, and stuff. And I think this is just another thing that's going to start separating us from even going out in public. I know somebody personally, and I talked to them, and they went through a really vigorous, terrible, atrocious, like the whole situation for his divorce was just the most sad and disheartening and terrible thing I think I've heard in a long time. And he was telling me about it. He's like, oh, to get through it, I used the AI and stuff and talked to it. And I was like, dude, we're your friends. You can talk to us about it. We don't have all the right answers, you know what I mean? But it's being used for things like this. It's starting to disconnect human connection from my perspective, at least. I think it's going to be the downfall of society as a whole. And you can tell me you think I'm wrong or you think I'm just crazy or throwing some conspiracy thing out, but we're human beings. We long for other humans' interaction. We pack up together. We tribe up together. We get herded together in groups with different commonalities. I got a group of car stuff. I got a group that's veterans. I got a group that, wants to get all the diaper sniffers out of the community. I got another group that's all just work stuff. I got another group that's because of my daughter and because of my son and stuff. We group up like that for a reason. That's what humans crave, is interaction with other humans, honestly.
So I think that there's two parts of this. Number one is that just because the technology is there doesn't mean that it's always good.
I agree.
Doesn't mean that it can't be used for good, but in other times be used for bad, right? And it's not just AI.
Substitution.
It's not just AI, right? Like the technology that exists, and we've covered that a lot in this show, right? Talking back to cloud seeding and weather modification. We've used it for a long time. It was originally designed for use in a military fashion.
Most things are originally.
Now it's designed and used in agricultural. Now the question becomes is, do they actually care what harm they cause, or do they only care about the profit margins at the end of the day? When you look at AI and you look at the potential that AI has to become, and I know that like we're talking about GPT-5 right now, which is readily available to every single human being on the face of the earth with a laptop or a phone. What's not being talked about is the AI that exists in models that aren't available to the general public. Like, we're talking about a model that's available to the general public. We're not talking about people that have built AI models on their own servers and literally train those AI models to spit out programming and spit out everything
That's
else.
the thing too, is who set it up. What's their angle and end goal? I don't know. At this point, with so many Chat GPTs or whatever, we're gonna have Chat GPT 6 before we see that what is it, Grand Theft Auto 6 game come out, dude. It's insane how quick they're kicking these things out.
Yeah, and so there's AI that we don't talk about, that the general public doesn't know, that's being trained, that far surpasses what is available to the general public on something like ChatGPT. I mean, there's still limitations to what you can ask these open AI platforms to do. They won't do certain things. Well, you can get around that by creating your own AI and training your own AI. And that's what they're doing. And the other cost that we have that we don't take into account with AI is the drain on our utilities. I mean,
Oh, yeah,
the electrical
power it
cost it
takes.
takes to power these farms that farm out this AI is extreme. And so we're talking about, when we add these giant server farms and these giant computing platforms and computing farms across America, what toll is it taking on the local economy and on the local population when it comes to draining the grid?
Right. I also think too, with a lot of this AI stuff, we're kind of the guinea pigs that's refining it for free. You get what I mean on that? Like we're polishing it up for all these developers. We're just like, oh, whatever, we'll be the beta testers or whatever for it. We'll polish it up and get all the details and all the bugs worked out of it for you, so it's working optimal by time, like, version 10 is out there or something. So I don't know. I don't participate with it. I don't like it. It kind of creeps me out. I think it just destroys just the whole sense of even being a human being, personally.
Yeah, I personally have never communicated with AI as if it were my friend, but I can see that people do. Quite frankly, I never would, but you know, can't move past the fact that some people do. And so, it definitely could take and bring somebody that doesn't want any human interaction a little bit step in a further direction of limiting interaction with others. I'm not going to say that AI is 100% bad. I think that it can be used for a lot of good. To see that they think that AI can somehow reason like a human and make rational decision making, I don't believe that's ever going to be a capability of AI to make rational moral decisions. They're using straight fact or even fiction of what they find in the global universe, which there's so much junk online that it's feeding off of, that you're not even sure you get 100% accurate answer all the time. And AI is wrong all the time.
Yeah, no, I don't like it. I don't use it. Make your own decisions and choices. I can see what you're saying, where it could be beneficial. Some introvert that might be, no human interaction and getting real weird and start talking to the goofy computer robot. Okay, maybe that'll help. Maybe it'll help people from being total weirdos or something if they're very isolated for whatever reason, or maybe it'll help some isolated people work to not be isolated. But I don't like it. Nothing replaces human interaction, in my opinion.
Well, this has been Spiritual Insurgency. Join us every day. Find us online, YouTube and Rumble. Go to our website for some of that research that we talked about earlier, faithfamilyfit.org, and join us every Saturday on air, 6:70 a.m., and on sister stations of Crawford Network. Have a great day. God bless.
Want it better, be better.